hard disk, right?
Yes.
So this is physically hard disk, right? Hard disk or SSD, how it is look like physically. But to store the data in the hard disk, we need a few things. One is file system. One is file system. So you have a hard disk. So you want to store the data in the hard disk. It should be defined with a file system, like a NTFS or a FAT file system. Next, you have a very big hard disk. For example, you have a 500 GB hard disk. You have a, for example, you have taken a 500 GB hard disk or 1 terabyte hard disk, 2 terabyte hard disk. The entire hard disk, we don't use it. Entire hard disk, you don't put a data. So you have taken a hard disk, on entire hard disk, you don't put a data, right? Okay. Entire hard disk, you don't put a data. What we are doing here, we split the hard disk into small parts. For example, I split this hard disk, like this is 100 GB. I given for a C drive for an operating system. This is for a operating system. So that is enough for an operating system. For example, I have taken another 100 GB. So now it is 200 GB completed. Say 100 GB given for a D drive. So for some important files or class files, videos are there. I have some music files are there. Then I will create another 50 GB. Okay, I will create another 50 GB like this. The point is, we are dividing this hard disk into parts for storing different type of data. So like I have a music file, so I'll keep all music files into one place. Example I will show you here. C drive, operating system, applications. What is this G drive? The G drive contains all my practical related applications. This is, see, it is app folder. Okay, applications I use in my practical. Okay, or OS folder. So when I'm doing practicals like installing Windows 10, installing Windows Server 2019 or 2016, or a Linux, CentOS Linux 7, okay, or vSphere kind of stuff. Okay, yeah, tell me. Okay, I kept all these required files into for my practicals, like operating system files, means like to install operating system file, operating system images, applications, and some data. Okay, so it's, I will keep it in here in my Z drive. In F drive, it is mostly, it is my office related or my personal documents or previous files also there. E drive is our class, our batches, CTS batches, or HCL batches. Okay, the previous means every batch I will create. So from recently, I'm continuously taking these SD batches, right? So I created a folder like this. So all SD related batch kind of stuff. Guys, yesterday I forward this PPT. Please go to this PPT, service desk PPT. Okay. So the required regular required PPTs and each batch, earlier I am explaining on the notepad. Now I'm not doing on a notepad, right? Very less using of notepad now because I already created a PPTs. Okay. All certain class recorded videos also available here. This is a H drive. The H drive contains my virtual machines. For a class, when I create a virtual machine, I create and store in a H drive. Why? Because it's a 500 GB space, but I'm getting only 43 because I already used. D drive, mainly my drivers, one small files also there. Okay, so I have a hard disk. I divide a hard disk into multiple parts. That we call it as a partitioning. Logically dividing a storage space of a hard disk is called a partitioning. Okay, is called a partitioning. Next, how many partitions we can make it? I showed almost 6 partitions, right? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 partitions. So in generally, how many partitions we can make it? I have 6 partitions because of I have a 2 hard disk. Okay, so don't worry. Yeah, we can make 6 partitions in single hard disk also. So don't worry. Okay, I have 2 hard disks, each hard disk having 3 partitions. Like that I created, that is different because I need a more space. Okay, so one is 500 GB, another is a 1 terabyte. So but still I need more space. I created 3 partitions. So whatsoever it is, how many partitions we can create it? In the partitions, there is a primary partition and extended partitions also there. So what is this extended or primary partitions? We'll see. Guys, depends upon you insert a new hard disk. For example, you insert a new hard disk. Immediately your disk management will ask, do you want to initialize the disk as a MBR type or a GPT type? Do you want to initialize the disk as a MBR type of disk or a GPT type of disk? I will show you that one. So go to search or a run is better. Disk mgmt.msc. Disk mgmt.msc. This is a disk management. So you want to manage your hard disk, like you want to create a new partitions or you want to modify any partition thing. So you can go to disk management. See, I have a 2 hard disk. This is the disk 0. Right click, you can see convert into MBR. Means the disk 0 is a GPT disk. In a disk 1, I right click disk 1. It's showing convert into GPT. It means it is a MBR disk. If you have a doubt, I will tell you how it is kind of stuff. Okay, this is a PowerShell. PowerShell is also like a command prompt, but it is advanced than a regular command prompt. PowerShell is a much advanced than a get disk. So it will display your all hard disk here. So we'll see here. Okay, 2 hard disk. This is disk 0. This is disk 0. This is disk 1. So number is showing here. Can you see disk 0? It is a GPT style. 500 GB GPT style. Disk 1 is a MBR. MBR or GPT are nothing but a partition styles. Okay, it's a partition styles. For example, your
Sir,
hard disk is, yeah, tell me.
sir, what does GPT stand for and MBR stands for?
Very good, very good. Master boot record
And the difference?
and GPT GUID partition table. Okay, GUID partition table. Right from here, GUID partition table. So difference, yeah, we'll discuss the difference. Okay, so your hard disk is MBR type or you are initialized as a MBR. For example, your hard disk is 500 GB hard disk, or you can take 1 terabyte, 2 terabyte, anything. I create a first partition. Okay, 500 GB first partition is created. Okay, this is my C drive or any drive. Okay, for example, it is 100 GB partition is created, and this is the first primary partition. Okay, like this, I am creating a partitions. So I created something like a 50 GB. This is also 50 GB partition created. Means totally how much completed? 200 GB completed. Now I'm creating another 50 GB. Yeah, 50 GB primary. So 250 GB out of 500, 250 GB completed. What will happen to remaining thing? So look at here. This is become unallocated, means you cannot create or you cannot store any data in this one. It is become unallocated and permanent unallocated. So you can see this is showing black color, right? So it is unallocated. So like that only it is showing unallocated. You cannot put anything, you cannot create any partitions. Then what is the solution? What is the solution for this one? Okay, you have to remove the partition and make this entire one as a single primary. One suggestion is you have to make this entire one as a single primary. So what is the MBR will do? You can create 4 primary partitions. You can create 4 primary partitions only. So if you left any space unallocated, it will be unallocated only now. Once 4 primary completed, you can't do with anything, any remaining space. Or you have to delete all the partitions and you have to arrange it properly. This is earlier time of like a XP 2003 server time. From Windows Vista 7 onwards, you don't get much chance. Means once you are completed 3 primary, the next part automatically become extended partition. Means 3 primary partitions are completed and now you want to create a new partition, then it is become this remaining entire thing become extended partition. So 3 primary, 1 extended. In 1 extended, you can create a multiple logical partitions. Multiple logical partitions, you can create it. This called logical drives. For example, this is 20 GB, this is 30 GB, this is 50 GB. Like that, I can able to create it. Okay. So this part is extended partition. So whenever we completed 3 primary, the 4th one automatically a logical drive in the extended partition.
Sir, you are not audible.
Why am I muted myself?
Yes, sir, you muted
Some,
yourself.
okay. I think while I'm running like this, okay. So how much part you listen? MBR is okay. Masterboard record. GUID partition table. 4 primary. Okay, 4 primary.
And we can
Or
make in secondary we can make multiple partitioning.
yeah, in extended, not secondary, extended partition. Once you are completed 3 primary, you want to create more than 4 partition. You want to create more than 4 partitions. First 3 are 3 primaries completed. Fourth one become extended. In extended, we can create a multiple logical drives. Okay, each maximum partition size is 2 terabytes. So that is about your MBR. Next one is GPT. Okay, next one is GPT, GUID partition table. It is a new one, not very latest one, but it is after MBR. Earlier it is only MBR, later is in GPT, you can create a 128 primary. Exactly say there is no primary concept it is, but you can see it is C drive, F drive, D drive, and some other drives. You can see these are don't have any letters, that is recovery drives only. But even though they don't have a drives, but there are primary partitions only. Okay. See these many multiple drives are there because my disk 0 is a GPT drive and disk 1 is the MBR drive. I make that one as a 3 partitions only. Why? Because of I want a primary partitions kind of stuff. I don't want that logical kind of nonsense. So I want to create a only 3. Of course, you want to see, I will show you. Okay, this is a 500 GB total disk space, but available space is, see the H drive available is 40 GB. Available is 40 GB. I want to cut if something around 20 GB out of H drive or 40 GB out of H drive. We'll see how to cut a free space from the drive. So we'll see. Shrink volume. First go to shrink volume. So we'll spend today on this. See, it is showing 44, something like that. Okay, what I'm going to is 40960. I'm creating a 40 GB out of 43 free space. See, it is 491 GB. It is my 500 around more than 500 GB become lesser. See, it is not refresh, right? Refresh. So 3.88 GB free out of 4.43.88 GB free. Now 3.88 GB free. Okay, see it is my H drive. Now I got a unallocated. See guys, this is primary, primary, primary. 3 primary completed. In this 40 GB unallocated, I'm going to create some 10 GB drive. Some 10 GB drive or 20 GB drive. So how to create in unallocated? Right click, new simple volume, new simple volume. Next, I want to create something like a 10 GB drive, 100240. 10024 means 1 GB, 10 GB means 10240. So I'm not doing it's NTFS file system. It's NTFS or FAT. You have to select. I will keep like that only, no changes, quick format. Finish. See, it is not showing like this. It is showing differently. See, it is G drive, E drive, S drive. Okay. And then what is this? The green color border. What is this green color border? The green color. extended partition. So this total 40 GB went inside extended partition. In that one, this 10 GB logical drive. 10 GB logical drive. I want to create something 4 GB drive. 4 GB, 4096. Only 4096 means it's a 4 GB drive. So it is. I created two drives. Both are logical drives inside a extended partition. Still I have a 26 GB. Like I can create a multiple drives. Of course, once you are completed up to Z drive, you cannot get more. Okay, so available drive letters. Drive letters we won't get it. Okay, like this is a drive without having a drive letter. This is the drives are having a drive letters, but
With
these
C.
drives don't have a drive letter. Okay,
Sir,
like that.
why start with C?
Why always start with the C?
Yes, sir.
Okay, yeah, very
How
good.
do
You know, earlier days, like starting of computers, personal computers and all, people load operating system, programs, data, everything through floppy disk only. So the floppy disk become the primary secondary storage. Okay, in a secondary storage, floppy disk is first. So they started with the A drive, floppy disk drive, A drive. For example, I want to boot my PC. I insert a floppy disk. It is a drive, and I insert a operating system floppy disk. I load operating system. Now system is running. So A drive is occupied. Now I want to put some data, some program I want to run, right? So what I'm doing is I put two floppy disk drives. So sometimes you may require two floppy disk drives. Like you want to copy a data from one drive to another drive, or maybe one is like a booting drive, another is a data inserting drive. Okay, like input drive, output drive combination. People are what they are using. They are using two drives. Sometimes they use two different drives, two different floppy drives. Means one is a five by 5 1 by 4, so that is a 5/4 drive is there and 3.5 drive is there. So there two type of drives, one is 5-inch, another is 3-inch drives are there. Okay, so people depends upon that time, so people use that drives. Okay, so A and B are dedicated for floppy disk drive. What is the next drive letter? What is next drive?
C
A B
drive?
completed, the next is C drive is available. Okay,
Yes, sir.
next is C
Okay.
is available. So that traditionally that it's going on like a 2 are reserved for a floppy disk, AB is reserved for a floppy disk, and C automatically came to the first drive letter. That's why first you are insert one single hard disk, right? Normally computer having a hard disk, and we are trying to create a partition, install operating system in that partition. So obviously AB reserved for a floppy disk, the C become operating system drive.
First
Okay.
partition, sir.
Yeah, starting. Okay, next drive automatically, like your if you are using a CD-ROM or a pen drive, that is become secondary drive like a D drive. Okay, sometimes it is become E drive, like that it is happen. Okay, so even mine is also in proper order: C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J. Wow, oh, it is nice, very good. Okay, guys, very simply say these are the drives. Like that, we can create a multiple drives under extended partition. 3 primary completed. So remaining entire remaining unallocated become extended. In extended, we create a logical partitions. If you no longer required, you can delete the partition. Don't do it on your system, guys. If you want to do it, I will tell you how to do it on a virtual machine kind of stuff. Don't do it on this your physical drives. So I deleted all the partition. Now 40 GB allocated is available. This is my H drive. I want to combine this 40 GB to H drive. Go to H drive, extend volume. So that 40 GB showing here. I'm adding entire 40 GB here. Now it is again back with a full drive. So it is refresh. So it is 43.8 GB available. Okay. Yeah, we cannot add that unallocated to here. We can only add it to adjacent one. So don't worry. My point is to show the partitions how are look like, how partitions are shows on the screen, how partitions are really shows on the disk management. And this is a MBR type of hard disk. That's why it is we are getting. MBR or GPT not depends upon hard disk, guys. It is only depends upon how you specify it. Okay, how you specify it by default or by inserting new hard disk. You have to tell this hard disk is a MBR disk or this hard disk is a GPT disk. The partition styles either at the time of installing operating system or by adding a additional hard disk, you have to tell. Okay, so that is why primary and all. It's a old one, that's why it is having only primary extended, but you can see this is MBR and GPT. Okay, your motherboard is BIOS type of motherboard. Your motherboard is BIOS only, and your operating system also older operating system like a Windows 7, Windows XP, Windows Vista operating system. In that cases, by default, while you are installing operating system, your hard disk is become MBR hard disk. Okay, your motherboard is UEFI, and your operating system must be latest operating system, UEFI supported operating system like a Windows 8, Windows 10, Windows 11, 2012 server, 2016 server, or 2019 server, or CentOS 7, Red Hat means Linux 7, Linux 8 kind of stuff. Your UEFI supported candidate. So the hard disk is by default GPT. That is by default. Otherwise, okay. Otherwise, when you insert a new hard disk separately, you insert a new hard disk, your system will ask, do you want to initialize it as a MBR or GPT? So if you are initialize a MBR, so my second hard disk I initialize as a MBR. That's why I can able to create 3 primaries, remaining become extended. In the extended, I can create a logical partitions. And maximum size of each partition is 2 terabyte. And if I initialize it as a GPT, I can create 128 partitions, 128 primary partitions. No extended, no logical concept is there. More than 2 terabyte of support for each partition. Means more than 2 terabyte means it is around 18 EB. Okay, as per the certain standard textbook, it is 18 EB. In a Google, different answers are there. Some places it shows 9.2 zettabyte. Okay, so maximum single partition size is up to 18 EB. So this is MBR and GPT. This is how to create a virtual hard disk kind of stuff. I said, okay, but MBR and GPT is important. Next one. Guys, when you create a partition, you created a partition, the partition can be a NTFS partition or FAT partitions. To store the data in the partition, to store the data in this partition, you have to go with the file system. You have to go with the file system. What is this file system? You know, when you are doing any format is there, no? You connect a pen drive, you format it. You take one disk space and you format it. Normally we think format means cleanup. So people give like my laptop got completely virus. I given for a format. So because the format word is again the format word, people using it to tell they clean up the disk. Okay, they clean up. Originally, format does not mean cleaning or deleting. Cleaning or a deleting. Like you have a pen drive, you insert a pen drive, you formatted it. Okay, you thought you are cleaned entire data. Originally format, in the process of formatting, your data may loss, your data may deleted. Okay, in the process of formatting, your data may deleted. That is point number 1. Next, originally the formatting means defining file system. Format means defining file system. Different file systems are there. NTFS, FAT, FAT32, EXFAT, REFS, EXT3, EXT4, XFS, like that. Different type of formats are there. Defining a format, defining a file system is called a format. To store the data in a drive means it can be a hard disk drive or it can be a pen drive, it can be a SSD, okay, it can be a CD-ROM. To store the data in a device, we need a file system. We need a file system to store the data in a device. We need a file. Oh, that is only I've written. Very good. So to store the data in a device, we need a file system. Okay. So each file system has some kind of properties and certain kind of support is there. Like if you are using Windows operating system, mostly we use NTFS. In the olden days we use FAT. Later we are using NTFS. Now mostly we are using NTFS only. FAT is very less until unless if it is required. Okay, any specific requirements. Because FAT32 support maximum partition size is 32 GB. A single partition size is 32 GB. And FAT cannot store big files like a 2 GB, 4 GB. Straight files we cannot store. Okay, FAT cannot store. Okay, FAT don't provide security, compression, quota, indexing features. So we are jumped to the NTFS. Important is FAT cannot support big partition size, maximum 32 GB. Maximum 32 GB. FAT cannot store big files. Okay, and come to the NTFS, new technology file system. NTFS support up to 2 terabyte and more than 2 terabyte. According to the Windows XP, NTFS support up to 2 terabyte. Later on days, NTFS version is changing. It support up to 18 EB. Means more than 2 terabyte of partition it support. Support maximum is 18 EB at present. And NTFS gives certain features like a security. You have a file in your D drive. Someone is trying to access. Someone using your computer, secondary user want to access. What you have to do? You can, if you want, you can secure it by giving or allowing, denying permission. You can tell write allow, read allow, write deny, read deny, that kind of stuff. Allow, deny permission to the users. We can put it on the file or a directory. That is called as security. Security does not mean virus or antivirus. Does not mean virus or antivirus. Security means giving a permission to access the file or denying a permission to access the file or directory. Encryption, encrypt the data. So you can encrypt the data so then any other person either directly or indirectly they cannot access the data. Okay, only the person who encrypted the data, that person only can able to access using certificates. So encrypt the data means it change the data look. Okay, so any person is trying to open the data, he cannot do it. Compression, you can compress the data to save the disk space. You have a lot of data is there in your disk, you can do the compression, so then you will get a more space. Disk quota, you have a 500 GB, a partition is there, or 200 GB partition is there, 200 GB partition is there. So you have a two users in your computer, you and other person, like your brother is there, little brother. People will keep download and put the data into the drives. So what I have done, so create a one additional extra user and limit the quota on the drive. Limit the quota on the drive. Limit the quota on the drive. Like this particular user only he can keep 20 GB data only out of 220 GB. Okay, like that. So disk quota, indexing, these kind of features are by NTFS. Next file system is exFAT. What is exFAT? Extended FAT. Extended FAT. FAT means file allocation table. The FAT32 file system support up to 32 GB disk space. Like you have a pen drive and you want to format with the FAT, means if you are having a 16 GB pen drive, okay, 32 GB pen drive, okay, 16 GB 64 GB pen drive, not working. You have a memory card, so you want a format with FAT. If it is a 16 GB memory card, oh no problem. 32 GB memory card, no problem. 64 GB memory card, problem, because FAT does not support more than 32 GB space. Okay, so nowadays memory cards are not 32, or earlier days 2 GB memory card means you are a hero. Okay, you are a hero if you are having a 1 GB, 2 GB memory cards. You have a 4 GB pen drive means you are great. You have a lot of space. Now it is useless. Okay, the memory cards are 128 GB, 256 GB, 512 GB, 1 terabyte, up to 2 terabyte memory cards also available in market. Okay, so your FAT not support for 32 GB. NTFS file system not supported by all type of hardwares, all type of devices, like a all type of device like a mobile phones, Linux systems, does not support different type of operating system, different type of devices, not support NTFS. FAT don't give more space. NTFS won't supported different devices. So what is the solution? exFAT. Extended FAT, it support more than 32 GB also. Mainly exFAT used on your memory cards, SD cards kind of stuff. Like you have a 512 GB or 128 GB memory card. You have a 128 GB memory card or 256 GB memory card is there. So you can format with the exFAT. You don't need to do personally, guys. Whenever you insert a memory card, fresh memory card, whenever you insert it, automatically it will be formatted with the exFAT by your mobile phone. Nowadays. Okay. You are using an operating system. Okay. Another one is there. Resilient file system. Resilient file system, like you put a data into the NTFS or a FAT or exFAT, whatever it is, people are accessing the data, reading the data, writing the data, moving the data may corrupt. So the solution is, if data is that much of sensitive because a lot of people are accessing, put the data into REFS drives, means formatted with REFS file system, put there. So your data will be preventing from data corruption using CRC, cyclic redundancy check. If you are using Linux or Unix, you will having this disk format styles like a XFS, ext2, ext3, ext4 kind of stuff. we can share the files over the network, okay, using a NFS and GFS file systems. DVDs use universal disk formats, like a different file formats are there for supporting different devices to store the data in a different ways. So already I told FAT and NTFS difference. So both are store data in a different ways. That's why their features also different. Yeah, what I have covered: file system and hard disk, partition, MBR, and GPT. If you see this one, the I drive is NTFS, the J drive is FAT32. See the tabs on it and bottom. In the bottom you can see compress this drive to save the disk space, not in the Z drive. Allow files on the drive to have content index in the addition to the file properties. The second box is also not available in a J drive. Again in I drive we can see security tab and quota tab. You can't see that one in a Z drive. That's a NTFS having these features, mainly security, quota, compress, and indexing. Of course, encryption is also there. See, here it is, MBR GPT, right? So I created a hard disk. I attach a hard disk. So now this new hard disk is attached. If you see closerly, disk to unknown 10 GB, not initialize. And you can see this here, initialize the disk. Do you want to initialize as a MBR or GPT? Do you want to initialize as a MBR or a GPT? That is a initialization of disk. You initialize as a MBR the disk. We can create 3 partitions. One extended, in one extend you can create a logical partitions. If you initialize as a GPT, you can create a 128 primary partitions. Okay, so remember this MBR and GPT. Possibly I don't take class uh, on Saturdays, but Saturday morning I have a class. Only morning sessions only I will take, but I am taking for a one already batch is there. I am taking afternoon, tomorrow afternoon. Guys, prepare for your communication plus your technical. So Monday we'll discuss this boot processing. That's why I told MBR and GPT. So I will tell boot processing. And while I am telling boot processing, there is issues. If you are free, you can read it. Okay. Also, there is a boot processing related that time issues also there, and there is a some troubleshooting, system image related troubleshooting also picture no problem that is okay is there. So this is the documents related to PC hardware. Okay, that's it for now.